Yet here I am, desperate for guidance from strangers on the internet. I'm a 35-year-old man, and my life has transformed into a soap opera that I never signed up for. Let me start at the beginning. I met my wife Evelyn in our second year of college. We were both studying business and ended up doing the same group project for our marketing class. Evelyn was a whirlwind of enthusiasm and drive. She had her entire life planned out. Graduate with honors, get a position at a top firm, advance up the corporate ladder, and eventually start her own business. I was more of a go-with-the-flow type of person, but her determination encouraged me. We began dating a few months later, and for the first time in my life, I felt like I had a purpose. Evelyn motivated me to be better and seek more for myself. We graduated together and both got decent entry-level jobs at competitive organizations. The first few years were difficult, long hours, tight money, and little time together. But we made it work. 3 years into our relationship, I proposed. I had been saving for months to purchase the right ring. I had planned a romantic evening that included a gourmet dinner, a walk in the park where we shared our first kiss, and then proposing under the stars. But life had different plans. Evelyn contacted me in tears on the day I planned to propose. She'd been passed over for a promotion she'd been pursuing for months. She was heartbroken, questioning her job choices and personal value. I canceled my elaborate plan and instead arrived at her place with her favorite takeout and a bottle of wine. As we sat on her tiny balcony, commiserating about the unfairness of corporate life, I realized there would never be a better time. I pulled out the ring and asked her to marry me right there, in our work clothes and surrounded by empty takeout containers. Evelyn agreed, and everything seemed perfect for a little moment. Then came wedding planning, which marked my first genuine interaction with Karen, Evelyn's mother. I'd met Karen a few times previously, but she was always in groups and on her best behavior. Karen's real colors emerged when she began to prepare her only daughter's wedding. Nothing was ever good enough. The space was too small, the cuisine was too exotic, and the music was too contemporary. She questioned every decision we made, from the color of the tablecloths to the design of my tuxedo. Evelyn attempted to mediate, but it was evident she was straining to stand up to her mother. The breaking point came when Karen insisted on inviting Evelyn's ex-boyfriend, Tom. Apparently, Tom's parents were longtime family friends, and it would be impolite not to include them. I put my foot down, and to my amazement, Evelyn supported me. It was the first time I had seen her truly stand up to her mother, and I was proud of her. The wedding event was stunning, despite Karen's best efforts to micromanage every detail. Evelyn was radiant, and as we exchanged vows, I honestly believed we could face whatever life threw at us. The first few years of our marriage went well. We both advanced in our careers, purchased a small home in the suburbs, and began discussing having children. Evelyn wanted to wait until we were more financially secure, and I understood. We were doing well, but children are expensive, and Evelyn had huge hopes for her career. Around our 5th wedding anniversary, I started to feel ready for fatherhood. My brother had recently had his second child, and seeing him with his children sparked something in me. I brought up the matter with Evelyn, but she was hesitant. She was up for a significant promotion and didn't want to risk it with a pregnancy. I tried to remain patient, but as another year passed, I couldn't stop feeling that our lives were on wait. We had many discussions about the best time to have a kid, but there was always another excuse to postpone: a major project at work, a scheduled vacation, or a potential career change. Finally, 2 years ago, Evelyn agreed it was time. We were equally enthusiastic, visualizing nursery colors and discussing baby names. However, as months passed without a positive pregnancy test, our excitement turned to concern. After a year of trying, we decided to consult a reproductive doctor. The doctor suggested that we both get tested to rule out any problems. I went for my testing soon away, ready to get the results. My findings came back normal, which was a relief, but it also put more pressure on Evelyn. However, Evelyn continued to postpone her appointments. At first, it seemed understandable. She had a huge presentation at work, and then she got the flu. However, as the weeks and months passed, I became increasingly agitated. Every time I mentioned it, Evelyn would become defensive or shift the conversation. That's when Karen became involved. She'd phone Evelyn repeatedly to see if there was any news. When Evelyn visited her parents, she returned home unhappy, claiming Karen had been pressing her about grandkids. I tried to be supportive, but I couldn't help but feel Evelyn was allowing her mother to have too much control over our life. Things came to a head last Thanksgiving. We were in Karen's home, surrounded by family. Karen had been drinking wine all day and was in excellent form. She began talking about how all of her friends were becoming grandparents and how she was starting to feel left out. Then she looked at me and said, It's a shame Evelyn married someone who can't have children. I've always known you weren't man enough. The room became silent. I felt as though I had been slapped. Evelyn simply sat there, staring at her plate. I attempted to explain that we were still trying and that these things take time, but Karen refused to give up. She kept making barbs at my masculinity, saying Evelyn should have married Tom instead, at least he came from a good family. I could not handle it anymore. All of the frustration from the previous year spilled out. I stood up and informed everyone at the table that I was not the problem. My fertility tests had come back normal. Evelyn hadn't even bothered getting tested yet. The aftermath was unpleasant. Evelyn was furious with me for breaching her confidence, and Karen was on a rampage, calling me every term in the book. I left the house and spent the night at a motel, trying to figure out what went wrong. Evelyn remained unhappy when I returned home the next day. She accused me of embarrassing her in front of her relatives. I attempted to explain that I couldn't bear being blamed and chastised for something I didn't do, but she didn't listen. Things have remained tight ever since. Evelyn is still refusing to be tested and she is now giving me the cold shoulder. Karen has been phoning and messaging non-stop, asking that I apologize to Evelyn and her. I disabled her phone number, but she keeps finding new ways to bother me. I do not know what to do. I adore Evelyn, but I'm beginning to wonder if we want the same things in life. I feel as if I'm constantly walking on eggshells, trying not to offend her or arouse Karen's fury. To make matters more confusing, Evelyn's cousin Emma contacted me yesterday. Emma and I had always gotten along great. She's a few years younger than us and has always been the family's black sheep, opting to become a teacher rather than work in the family business like Evelyn. Emma claimed she overheard what occurred on Thanksgiving and wanted to make sure I was okay. We ended up speaking for hours. It was wonderful to have someone on my side for once, someone who understood how controlling Karen could be. Now I'm at a crossroads. Part of me wants to fight for my marriage, to show Evelyn how destructive her relationship with her mother is. But another part of me wonders if it's time to cut my losses. I'm 35 years old and wish to become a father. I don't want to wake up at 45, resentful and childless, resenting Evelyn for denying me the opportunity to start a family. I never imagined I would be in this position. Any advice would be greatly appreciated. Am I wrong for defending myself? Should I have remained silent and let Karen continue to berate me? How do I persuade Evelyn that her mother's behavior is harming our marriage? Update 1. It's been a month since my first post, and to say a lot has happened is an understatement. I would like to thank everyone for their advice and support. Your thoughts provided me with valuable perspective on my position. After reviewing your responses, I realized I needed to have a serious chat with Evelyn. I couldn't stay in this limbo, with unsaid tensions and resentments growing between us. I decided to take the day off work and asked Evelyn to do the same. I wanted us to have time to communicate without being distracted. That morning, I cooked Evelyn's favorite breakfast, blueberry pancakes with real maple syrup. When we initially got married, I used to do it every Sunday, but we eventually stopped finding time for those small gestures. As we sat at our kitchen table, with the familiar smell of pancakes in the air, I had a flicker of optimism that we might be able to reconnect. I began by apologizing for my outburst during Thanksgiving. I emphasized that, while I regretted how I handled the situation, I couldn't apologize for the feelings that drove it. I told Evelyn how wounded I was by her silence, how I felt unsupported and blamed for something I didn't do. To my amazement, Evelyn broke down. Through her sobs, she admitted that she had been tested months earlier and discovered that she had some fertility concerns. She was hesitant to tell me because she feared I would abandon her. She had kept this secret for months, leading me to believe she was simply procrastinating on the examinations. I was surprised and disappointed that she had withheld this from me, but I tried to be understanding. I asked her why she believed I'd leave her over this, and her response crushed my heart. She stated that her mother always emphasized that a woman's worth was determined by her capacity to have children. Karen had pounded it into Evelyn's head that if she couldn't give her husband children, he would eventually leave her for someone who could. It was like a light bulb went out in my head. Many of Evelyn's actions over the last year now made sense: her reluctance to take tests, her defensiveness whenever I mentioned children, her silence in the face of her mother's attacks on me. Everything stemmed from a deep-seated anxiety that she wasn't woman enough. We talked for hours that day, finally opening up to one another in a manner we hadn't in years. We agreed to begin couples counseling to improve our communication and assist Evelyn overcome some of the detrimental notions ingrained in her by her mother. We even began looking at adoption and IVF options, feeling like we were finally on the same page about our future. For a few weeks, things appeared to be improving. Our counseling sessions were going well, and Evelyn appeared more comfortable and happy than she had in months. We were reconnecting again, recovering the love that had been lost among the tension and bitterness. But then Karen became involved again. She somehow learned about Evelyn's fertility troubles. Evelyn's sister, who has always been a gossiper, may have leaked the information. Instead of being there for her kid during this tough time, Karen went on a tirade. She began calling me every day, leaving long rambling voicemails blaming me for freaking Evelyn out and giving her fertility difficulties. She'd say things such as, "If you were a real man, you'd have given her a baby by now." Adding, "I always knew you weren't good enough for her." I attempted to ban her number, but she simply used different phones to call. Then she began coming up at our house unannounced, requesting to talk with Evelyn alone. The first time it happened, I arrived home from work to find Evelyn crying on the couch, and Karen pacing around our living room, yelling about how we needed to try harder. How Evelyn wasn't doing enough to fix herself. I asked Evelyn to create boundaries with her mother, but she always found an excuse. "That's just how Mom is," she'd explain. "She's just worried about me." It felt like we were right back where we started, with Evelyn unwilling to stand up to her mother and me feeling like an outsider in my own marriage. Things came to a head last week. I arrived home early from work, expecting to surprise Evelyn with tickets to a performance she had been longing to see. Instead, I stepped in and found Karen in our living room, reading over our personal documents. She said she was looking for our medical records since she didn't think Evelyn had fertility concerns. She assumed we were lying to cover up my shortcomings. I lost it. I told Karen to leave our home and keep out of our business. I informed her that her behavior was toxic and was ruining her relationship with her daughter. Instead of supporting me, Evelyn burst into tears, complaining that I was being too harsh on her mother. Evelyn and I got into a big fight that night, after Karen left. I informed her that I couldn't keep living this way, with her mother continuously intruding in our life and Evelyn letting it. I said that I felt wedded to both of them, not just Evelyn. Evelyn accused me of being selfish and not seeing how painful this was for her. In the heat of the moment, I said something that I regret. I told Evelyn that if she couldn't stand up to her mother, she probably wasn't ready to be a mother herself. It was a low blow, and I realized it as soon as the words left my mouth. Evelyn slapped me and shut herself in our bedroom. I spent the night on the couch, feeling disoriented and bewildered. Evelyn had left the next morning. She left a note explaining that she was going to stay with her parents for a bit to clear her mind. It's been 5 days and I still haven't heard from her. Karen, on the other hand, has been bombarding my phone with angry messages. She's telling everyone who will listen that I kicked Evelyn out and left her. Some of Evelyn's family have called and demanded to know why I'm abusing her. I feel as if I'm living in a warped other universe in which I'm the bad guy for desiring a healthy relationship with my wife. I'm at my wit's end. I love Evelyn, but I'm not sure I can keep going like this. Stress has an impact on my work. I've been preoccupied and unpleasant, and my supervisor has noticed. My health is also deteriorating. I've lost weight, am not sleeping well, and am continuously on edge. Emma has been a fantastic help throughout this. She's been checking in on me, bringing me meals, and listening when I need to scream. She knows family dynamics better than anyone because she grew up with them. She has told me stories of how they treated her when she opted to become a teacher rather than work in the family business. It has helped me better comprehend Evelyn's conduct, but it has also highlighted how deeply embedded these harmful behaviors are. I appreciate Emma's friendship, but I can't stop feeling bad about how close we've grown. There's nothing wrong going on, but I understand how it may appear to others, especially because Karen has painted me as the villain in all of this. I am considering asking Evelyn for a trial separation. I believe we both need some time to find out what we truly want and whether we can make this marriage work, but I'm afraid of what Karen will do if I offer it. I would not be surprised if she tried to turn the entire family against me. I never imagined I would be in this predicament. I've always felt that love was enough, that if you loved for someone you could overcome anything. Now I am not so sure. I feel like I'm drowning, and I'm not sure how to save myself, let alone my marriage. Any help on how to proceed would be greatly appreciated. How can I defend myself without fully burning bridges? Is there any chance for Evelyn and me, or am I only prolonging the inevitable? And how do I handle Karen's slander campaign against me? I'm feeling a little lost right now, so any advice would be appreciated. Update 2. It has been 3 months since my previous update, and my life has drastically changed. I'm still trying to digest all that has happened, but I'll do my best to update you all. After Evelyn departed, I attempted to give her some room. I figured that some time apart would help us both clear our minds and figure out what we truly wanted. But as the days passed into weeks, I knew something had profoundly shifted in our connection. During this period, I immersed myself in work and began seeing a therapist on my own. It was helping me acquire a better understanding of my marriage and my role in our troubles. I discovered that, while Karen was a major issue, Evelyn and I had communication issues that existed prior to her meddling. Evelyn contacted me about a month after she had departed. She asked to meet at the cafe where we had our first date. I was optimistic that we could work things out, but that was swiftly dashed when I arrived at the cafe. Evelyn was already present, seated at our old favorite table by the window. She appeared worn and unhappy, but there was a determination in her eyes that I had never seen before. We ordered our normal drinks, a latte for her and a black coffee for me, and it seemed like old times. But when Evelyn began talking, I realized this was not going to be the reunion I had hoped for. She informed me that she had been doing a lot of thinking and did not want to prolong our marriage. She stated that she believed we had different goals in life, and that the stress of the previous few months had demonstrated that we were incompatible. I was stunned. I inquired about couples counseling and improving our communication skills, but Evelyn had already made her decision. She said that she wasn't ready for children and might never be. She understood how important being a father was to me and did not want to prevent me from pursuing it. What hurt the most was when she revealed that Karen had a significant influence on her decision. Apparently, Karen persuaded Evelyn that I was emotionally abusive and that she deserved better. Evelyn really apologized for allowing me to mistreat her for so long. It seemed as if she was repeating Karen's comments, and I didn't recognize the lady I had married. Evelyn handed me divorce papers that were previously signed. She claimed her lawyer will contact us about dividing our assets. Then she stood up and departed, leaving me sitting there with a cold coffee and the ruins of my marriage. The following several weeks were a blur. I poured myself into work, hoping to distract myself from the anguish. I stopped taking calls from Evelyn's family members because I was tired of defending myself against Karen's lies. My own family was supportive, but they resided across the country and were unable to provide much practical assistance. Emma was there for me through everything. She'd bring over takeout, force me to go for walks, and simply sit with me when I needed company. She understood the family dynamic in a way that no one else did, and it was reassuring to speak with someone who recognized how manipulative Karen could be. As I spent more time with Emma, I began to see her in a new light. She was nice, encouraging, and appeared to understand me in a way Evelyn never did. I found myself looking forward to our time together, and her presence made me feel lighter and happier. After a few too many beers, Emma confessed to having affections for me for years. She claimed she never acted on them out of respect for Evelyn, but now that we were getting divorced, she couldn't keep it in any longer. I felt conflicted. Part of me thought it was too soon, that I should be mourning my marriage, but another part understood that Emma made me happier than I had been in a long time. We agreed to take things slowly, giving ourselves time to see whether this was genuine or just a reaction to all that had transpired. We began dating secretly. I understand that dating your soon-to-be ex-wife's cousin is unusual, but it felt natural. Emma understood my pain and history as no one else could. She encouraged me to continue going to therapy, to work through my feelings about the divorce and my concerns about starting a new relationship. Of course, when Evelyn and Karen found out, chaos ensued. Karen began spreading accusations about me throughout the family, claiming I had been cheating on Evelyn with Emma all along. Some family members who had previously been sympathetic to me became chilly, believing Karen's lies. Evelyn was hurt and angry, accusing me of moving too fast. The irony of Evelyn being concerned about me moving on was not lost on me, given that she was the one who left and filed for divorce. But I had had enough of Karen and Evelyn controlling my life and happiness. I realize this update may make me sound like the evil guy, but I'm finally putting myself first. Emma and I are happy, and we are taking things one day at a time. The divorce is proceeding, and while it is difficult, I am feeling hopeful about the future for the first time in a long time. It's not the life I imagined for myself, but it might be the one I need. I'm learning to trust my own emotions and needs instead of continually attempting to please others. It is a work in progress, but I'm getting there. Update 3. It's been a year since my previous update, and it's been an eventful one. I couldn't have imagined where life would lead me, but I'm happier than I've been in a long time. The divorce was finalized 6 months ago. It was not easy. Karen attempted to fight it, claiming that I had been unfaithful during our marriage. Fortunately, my lawyer was able to refute these claims, and the judge saw through Karen's attempts to manipulate the proceedings. We eventually reached an agreement on a fair asset allocation, and I was able to keep the house. Emma and I are still together, and our bond has become even stronger. We moved in together 4 months ago, and it has been fantastic. She understands me in ways Evelyn never did, and we talk frankly about everything. We've had our hurdles, of course, Blending our lives hasn't always been easy, but we confront them all together. The biggest news, however, is Emma's pregnancy with twins. We found out a few months ago and are ecstatic. It's ironic given Evelyn's fertility issues, but I suppose life has a way of surprising you. We weren't actively attempting, but we weren't stopping it either. When Emma handed me the positive test, I felt a combination of delight, excitement, and dread that I had never felt before. We're renovating the spare room into a nursery, and Emma has been reading every parenting book she can find. I am worried about becoming a father, especially with twins, but I am also excited. Emma's quiet confidence is encouraging. She continues telling me that we'll figure things out together. When we told our relatives about our pregnancy, their emotions were diverse. Emma's parents were overjoyed, but Karen went crazy. She began spreading further tales, claiming Emma had abducted me from Evelyn and imprisoned me in a pregnancy. It is ludicrous, but some people appeared to believe her. Evelyn's reaction was surprising. She contacted me directly for the first time since our divorce. She congratulated us but simultaneously expressed her hurt. I understood her pain, and part of me felt guilty, but I also realized I couldn't live my life based on Evelyn's emotions any longer. We had a long, honest chat that provided us both with closure. She stated that she had been unduly influenced by her mother and regretted how our relationship had ended. The pregnancy announcement appeared to be a wake-up call for Evelyn. She eventually stood up to Karen, urging her not to spread lies about me and Emma. It was too little, too late for our relationship, but I still appreciated it. Evelyn and I aren't buddies, but we're getting along better than I imagined. Karen attempted to stir trouble one final time. She showed up unannounced at our house, asking to speak with Emma. She attempted to persuade Emma that I would desert her and the babies, just as I abandoned Evelyn. Emma, bless her heart, remained firm and urged Karen in no uncertain terms to get out of our lives. I am proud of Emma's handling of the matter. She's strong in a subtle way, always confident in herself and our relationship. It's a relief after years of walking on eggshells with Evelyn and Karen. As for me, I'm still in therapy, dealing with the difficulties from my marriage and preparing for fatherhood. I've reconnected with old pals who had drifted apart throughout my marriage, and I'm establishing a support network separate from Emma's family. Work is going great. I was promoted a few months back, which couldn't have happened at a better time given the infants on the way. Emma is taking a year off from teaching when the twins are born, and my increased pay will help us cover that. Looking back, everything has been a tumultuous ride. There were times when I believed my life was falling apart, but now I realize it was simply falling into place. Emma and I are thrilled to start our family, and I am looking forward to this new chapter in my life. I understand that this may not be the joyful ending that some people expected, but it is mine. Life does not always go as planned, but sometimes the unexpected turns take us exactly where we need to go. I am glad for the lessons I have learned, even the hard ones, and I look forward to the future with hope and optimism. My parents left me in debt to fund my brother's failed business. Now they want to meet my daughter. Should I let them back into my life? I never expected to be writing this, yet here I am, seeking help from strangers on the internet about my family situation. My name is Johnny, and I am 32 years old. I've been estranged from my parents for over 8 years, and now they're attempting to re-establish contact. I'm not sure how to handle this, and I might really benefit from some outside advice. To comprehend my condition, you must first know about my childhood. I grew up in a little town in Ohio as the older of 2 sons. My younger brother, Bobby, 30M, was born when I was just 2 years old. Bobby was unquestionably the golden child. He was outgoing, athletic, and charming, all qualities that I lacked. I was more introverted and concentrated on academics. Our parents, particularly our father, were always more interested in Bobby's activities than mine. Dad was a former high school football standout who never completely recovered from his golden days. Bobby's passion in athletics thrilled Dad. He'd spend hours in the backyard teaching Bobby how to throw a perfect spiral, while I sat on the porch with my books. Mom wasn't as open about her preference, but it was still present. She'd swoon over Bobby's finger paintings and display them on the fridge, yet my report cards with straight A's were received with a simple, "Good job, Johnny." I recall a particularly terrible occurrence when I was 10. I won the school science fair with a project about renewable energy. I was so pleased to show my parents, but when I arrived home, they were too busy celebrating Bobby's selection to the junior football team to look at my blue ribbon. As we grew older, the partiality became more apparent. In high school, I immersed myself in my academics, joining both the debate team and the math club. I was determined to enroll in a good college and become a doctor. Bobby, on the other hand, got by on his charisma and physical abilities. He was the standout quarterback, courting cheerleaders and attending parties on weekends. I still recall the night of my high school graduation. I was valedictorian and had spent weeks preparing my speech. As I stood on the stage, I looked around the audience for my family. Dad was there, but he was occupied recording Bobby, who was having fun with his friends in the back row. Mom, at least, appeared to be paying attention, but I noticed her frequently looking over at Bobby. Even in my success, I felt as if I was still in my brother's shadow. When it came time for college, I was accepted to a prominent university on a partial scholarship. I was overjoyed, but it was short-lived. My parents sat me down and informed me they couldn't afford to help with my tuition. They claimed they had been saving for years, but unexpected bills had arisen, and they just did not have the funds. I was devastated and determined. I took out college loans, worked part-time jobs, and completed undergrad. It was challenging, but I felt pleased with myself for doing it on my own. I've worked as a teacher, a library assistant, and even spent the summer working night shifts at a 24-hour diner. I was so fatigued at times that I could barely keep my eyes open during lectures, but I persevered. Meanwhile, Bobby had determined that college was not for him. He worked at a neighborhood garage and spent his evenings drinking and partying. Our parents never expressed concern over his lack of direction. They'd just laugh and remark, "That's our Bobby, always living in the moment." Then, during my senior year, I learned the truth. Bobby, who had been working at the garage for a few years, abruptly announced that he was starting his own vehicle repair shop. To my surprise, our parents had handed him their entire savings, money they had told me did not exist, to launch his firm. I could not believe it. All those nights I'd spent worrying about my increasing student debt, all the times I'd had to choose between textbooks and proper meals, and they'd always had money. They just decided to give it to Bobby instead. When I challenged them about it, they attempted to defend their actions. They argued Bobby needed the money more because he didn't have a college degree, whereas I would be all right because I was intelligent and would earn a good living as a doctor someday. They didn't seem to understand or care about the tremendous debt I had incurred or the stress I was experiencing. That was the final straw for me. I completed my degree and was accepted into medical school, but I cut off practically all contact with my family. I only spoke with them around significant holidays, and even then, it was quick and perfunctory. I immersed myself in my studies, determined to excel despite their lack of support. During my second year of medical school, I met Donna. She was a talented, compassionate law student. For the first time, I felt truly recognized and valued for who I am. We began dating and she became my rock. She listened to me when I talked about my family troubles and never condemned me for choosing to distance myself from them. Following graduation, Donna and I married and relocated to Seattle for our respective residencies. We established a life together, away from my family and the agony of my past. 2 years ago we welcomed our daughter Lily into this world. Becoming a parent caused me to think about my own childhood, and I promised myself that Lily would always feel loved and supported, no matter what path she took in life. Fast forward to now. I'm a successful pediatrician. Donna is making waves at a well-known law firm, and Lily is a lively 2-year-old who keeps us on our toes. Life is nice, but I'm still saddened by my family's treachery. A few weeks ago I received a call from my mother. It was the first time we had spoken in months and I sensed something was amiss. She was in tears, explaining that Bobby's business had failed and that he had returned to live with them. Apparently, he had made some poor decisions, gotten into debt, and was now unemployed. My parents had to refinance their home to assist him out. They suddenly want to reconnect with me. They've been calling and texting, requesting to visit and see their grandchild. My father even sent me an email expressing his pride in my accomplishment and his desire to make amends. Part of me wants to give them a chance. After all, they are my parents, and I miss having a family. I think about Lily and worry if I'm robbing her of grandparents. However, another part of me is angry and upset. They seem to want me in their lives now since Bobby has disappointed them and they need someone to be proud of. I do not know what to do. Should I provide them another chance? Should I keep them at arm's length, or should I stick with the distance I've developed over the years? Donna thinks I should at least listen to them, but she's also protective of me and doesn't want me to get injured again. She has offered to be present when I speak with them as a buffer and support system. I'm divided between the want for a family and the need to shield myself from additional misery. I am terrified of letting them back into my life. What happens if they hurt me again? What happens if they try to use me as a financial safety net now that Bobby has fallen from grace? But then I look at Lily and wonder if I'm letting my past influence her future. Any advice is much appreciated. How can I deal with this scenario without being a doormat or allowing my anger to control me? How can I protect my own family while perhaps mending my ties with my parents? I feel like I'm at a crossroads, unsure which course to choose. Update 1. Thank you for your responses. I go through every remark and appreciate the variety of viewpoints you've provided. I wanted to give you an update on what has happened since my previous post. After much thought and several long conversations with Donna, I decided to meet with my parents, but on my own terms. I proposed that we meet in a neutral area, such as a quiet cafe near my business, without my wife or daughter present. I wanted to hear them out without quickly involving my new family members. The days leading up to the encounter were fraught with apprehension. I found myself snapping at Donna over minor issues and having difficulty sleeping. The night before, I sat in Lily's room long after she had fallen asleep, admiring her serene expression and wondering if I'd made the correct decision. The morning of the meeting, I arrived at the cafe early. I chose a table in the corner so we could have some privacy. As I waited, I couldn't help but think of all the times I had sat waiting for my parents to arrive at my events, debate competitions, science fairs, and even my high school graduation party. They were often late, typically due to something involving Bobby. But this time, they arrived early. I observed them approaching the cafe via the glass. They appeared older than I remembered, and more worn down. My mother's hair was completely gray, and my father appeared to have shrunk, his once strong shoulders now slightly slumped. They entered the cafe, and for a little period, we all stared at each other. Then my mother ran forward and hugged me passionately. I flinched at first, unaccustomed to such demonstrations of devotion from her, but I gradually hugged her back. My father stood awkwardly to the side, visibly uncomfortable. We sat down, and I let them talk first. My mom performed the majority of the talking. She began by apologizing for the past, stating that they had understood how unfair they had been. She expressed how proud they were of my accomplishments and how they regretted not helping me more. Then came the kicker. They stated that Bobby's situation had a role in their desire to reconcile. Apparently, his failing company venture was more than simply a bankruptcy. He became associated with some unscrupulous guys and ended up with gambling debts. My parents had to sell their vacation home and take out a second mortgage to help him out. As they talked, memories flooded back. I remembered the summer before I left for college, when I begged to use the vacation home for a week with some friends. They had said no, claiming they intended to utilize it themselves. Later, I discovered that they had let Bobby and his pals stay there for a month. I listened to everything silently, letting them talk. When they were finished, I took a deep breath and told them how I truly felt. I detailed every incident of favoritism. Every time they ignored my accomplishments in favor of Bobby's latest wish. I told them about the evenings I sobbed myself to sleep in college, wondering why I wasn't good enough to have their support. I told them about how I had to sell my laptop, a high school graduation gift from my grandma, to pay for textbooks. I described how during college, I had to work night shifts at a diner, coming home stinking of grease and fatigued, while they paid for Bobby's partying. My father attempted to intervene to defend their behavior, but I shut him off. I reminded him of all the football games he had attended for Bobby, as well as how he had missed my debate team's state victory because he was at one of Bobby's games. I informed them that, while I appreciated their apologies, it did not erase years of pain and neglect. I made it obvious that if they wanted a relationship with me, it would be on my terms, which would require time and effort on their part. I also addressed the elephant in the room, Bobby. I informed them that, while I sympathized with his predicament, I didn't want to be his safety net or compete for their attention again. My life, my wife, and my daughter were my top priorities right now. As I spoke, I could see the pain and regret on their faces. My mother was silently crying, and my father appeared to have aged 10 years in the course of our chat. Part of me felt bad for causing them distress, but another part felt glad to finally express these things aloud. The conversation ended with mixed emotions. We agreed to take things slowly. I stated I'd be available for occasional phone conversations, but I made no guarantees regarding in-person visits or introducing them to Lily. I told them I needed time to comprehend everything and asked them to respect my boundaries. As I left the cafe, I felt an odd combination of melancholy and relief. It wasn't the heartfelt reconciliation some had hoped for, but it seemed genuine and essential. I walked to my car and sat there for a while, repeating the conversation in my head. When I arrived home, Donna was waiting for me. She took one look at my face and hugged me. We sat on the couch and I told her everything. She listened without judgment, providing comfort and support. Donna asked me how I was feeling that night when we were lying in bed. I told her I was unsure. Part of me felt lighter, as if I'd finally let go of a load I'd been carrying for years, but another felt raw and exposed, as if an old wound had been reopened. I'm still processing things, but I feel like I've made a step toward healing. Even if the path ahead remains unpredictable. I know it won't be easy, and there will be a lot to go through, but for the first time in years I feel like I might be able to reconnect with my parents. I'll keep you updated as things progress. Thank you all for your encouragement and wisdom. It has given me the strength to confront this circumstance front on. Update 2. It's been approximately a month since my meeting with my parents, and I wanted to provide another update. Things have been complicated. True to my word, I have allowed only limited communication with my parents. We've had a few phone calls, mainly brief and embarrassing. My mother has worked quite hard, possibly to an excessive degree. She calls more frequently than I'm comfortable with and is always curious about Lily. I've had to establish some boundaries there, telling her that she must earn the right to be a grandma. Last week, she called and spent 20 minutes telling me about a toy she had purchased for Lily. I had to interrupt her and remind her that she hadn't even met Lily yet, and it wasn't right to purchase her things at this point. She appeared to be hurt, but I kept my position. In contrast, my father has remained aloof. He has only spoken to me once, and it was a stiff chat. I get the impression he is battling with his pride, finding it difficult to confess he was wrong all these years. During our one chat, he largely inquired about my profession, as if attempting to comprehend the life I'd made without them. The real drama, though, came from an unexpected source. My brother, Bobby. He sent me a long, rambling email about 2 weeks after I met with my parents. It was part apology, part request for assistance. He wrote about how he had made mistakes in his life, how he regretted taking advantage of our parents, and how he wished he had been a better brother to me. As I read the email, memories flooded back. I remembered in high school when Bobby borrowed my car without asking and had an accident. Our parents were outraged, but they paid for the repairs without holding Bobby accountable. Meanwhile, I had to ride the bus to school for a month. Bobby's email initially moved me. It appeared like a sincere effort at reconciliation. However, as I read on, the genuine intent of the email became evident. Bobby was asking for money. He had a business idea that he was confident would cure all of his issues, and he asked me to invest. I was infuriated. Despite all that had happened over the years, he continued to see me as nothing more than a possible source of wealth. The business concept was unclear and poorly thought out. It involved a food truck selling gourmet hot dogs. He had clearly learned nothing from his past setback. I did not answer your email. Instead, I phoned my folks. The talk was tense. When I questioned if they knew about Bobby's email, they said they did. In fact, they urged him to contact me. They believed that if Bobby and I reconciled, it would help bring the family back together. I lost my composure at that time. I explained that their attempts at manipulation were precisely why I had separated myself in the first place. I reminded them of all the times they had allowed Bobby's poor behavior, from covering for him when he cheated on tests in high school, to bailing him out of jail after a DUI in his 20s. I made it clear that I was not interested in sponsoring another of Bobby's schemes, and I was disappointed that they would even consider asking me after everything that had occurred. I informed them that if this was their notion of making amends, they needed to learn a lot about respect and boundaries. The call ended poorly. My mother was crying again. My father was defensive and I was shivering in wrath. I felt as if all of our progress had been undone in an instant. After I cooled down, I discussed matters with Donna. She's been my rock through it all, providing support and a clear perspective when I needed it the most. We concluded that for the time being, it would be best to distance us from my family. The trust that had been tentatively restored has been shattered, and I need time to comprehend it all. I feel discouraged and upset, but also strangely relieved. This incident proved that my suspicions were correct. My family still doesn't realize the anguish they've caused or respect the limits I've established. It's a difficult but important revelation. For the time being, my attention is focused on my own family, Donna and Lily. They are my top concern and I refuse to let the drama with my parents and Bobby detract from the enjoyment we've created together. Last night, while I was tucking Lily into bed, she wanted me to read her favorite story, The Giving Tree. As I read, I realized how different my relationship with her is from that with my parents. I want her to know she is loved unconditionally, not based on what she can provide or do. This morning, I sent my folks a brief email. I told them I needed some space and would contact them when I was ready. I also made it plain that any future relationship would be contingent on their ability to respect my limits and regard me as an equal, rather than merely a potential solution to their problems with Bobby. I have not heard back from them yet, and I'm not sure how I feel about it. Half of me is relieved by the quiet, but another half wonders whether they've given up on reconnecting. For the time being, I'm taking things one day at a time. I have a busy week at the hospital, and Donna and I are organizing Lily's third birthday party. Life moves on, and I'm resolved to concentrate on the good aspects of my life rather than linger on the negative. I'll update again if something big happens, but for now, I believe it's time to finish this chapter and move on with my life. Thank you all for your help and advice throughout this process. It's meant more than you realize. Update 3. It's been 6 months since my previous update, and I felt it was time to discuss what's going on. My family situation, as well as my viewpoint on things, have altered significantly. First, let me explain the situation with my parents and Bobby. After the argument over Bobby's email, I kept my distance. I ignored calls and messages, concentrating on my business and my immediate family. It was difficult, particularly over the holidays, but I believed it was vital for my mental health. 3 months ago, I received a letter from my father. It wasn't an email or text, but rather a handwritten letter. The sight of his familiar handwriting triggered a flood of memories, birthday cards and messages in my lunchbox from when I was younger, before Bobby came along and everything changed. In the letter, he did something I never expected. He gave a sincere and honest apologies. He acknowledged their favoritism toward Bobby, the pain they had caused me and the mistakes they had made in attempting to reconcile. He made no excuses or asked for anything. He just expressed regret and a willingness to make amends, but only when I was ready. He talked about how he had been thinking a lot and realized how his own fears had influenced his actions. He stated that he had lived vicariously via Bobby's sporting accomplishments since he felt inadequate in his own career. He claimed he had always been proud of my academic achievements but didn't know how to express it. I was suspicious at first, but something about the message felt unusual. Maybe it was the exertion of writing it by hand. Or perhaps enough time had elapsed for genuine thinking. Regardless, it paved the path for cautious communication. We've been talking more frequently lately, generally just my dad and me. Our interactions are still occasionally awkward, but they feel more genuine. He's been asking about my work and family, and he truly listens when I explain about my life. He's also been open about his own challenges, such as his difficulty acknowledging mistakes and his fear of losing his children. He asked Lily last week if he might send her a birthday gift. Rather than simply saying yes, I suggested we video call so he could see her open it. I hadn't seen such delight on his face in years as Lily joyfully unwrapped the toy doctor kit he sent her. My mom and Bobby's situation remains difficult. My mom has shown greater respect for my boundaries, which I appreciate. She's been sending out sporadic emails with family recipes and old photos. It's a modest gesture, but it appears like she's attempting to connect in an unobtrusive manner. Bobby, I've learned, has finally found treatment for his gambling addiction and is now working a steady job for the first time in years. He has not contacted me personally, which is probably for the best right now. Dad indicated that Bobby is going to Gamblers Anonymous sessions and trying to repay some of the money he owes our parents. The most significant change, however, has been in my own perspective. Throughout everything, I've learned that, while I can't erase the past or control my family's actions, I can choose how I react to them. I've been working to let go of some of the anger and hatred I've harbored for so long. It is not easy, and old hurts still arise on occasion, but I'm trying. I have also developed a new appreciation for my own family. Donna has been tremendously supportive throughout this process, offering advice when I needed it and simply listening when I needed to rant. Watching Lily grow and shaping her idea of family has made me think about what I want it to mean for her. Last weekend, we enjoyed a picnic in the park. As I watched Donna push Lily on the swing, I felt a sense of calm I hadn't felt in a long time. I understood that no matter what happened to my parents or Bobby, I now have my own family, one based on love, trust, and mutual respect. For the time being, we are taking things day by day. I'm not rushing into anything, and I'm not closing any doors. My top priority is still my wife and daughter, but I'm cautiously enthusiastic about the possibility of healing some of the rifts with my parents. This path has been both painful and fascinating. I've learned a great deal about forgiveness, limits, and the complexity of family relationships. Whatever occurs next, I feel better prepared to deal with it. Thank you all for your help and advice throughout this process. It's meant more than you realize. Am I the asshole for refusing to raise my husband's children from his affair now that he and the woman he cheated with have passed away? Sorry for using a new account. I know that's a red flag, but I don't want to risk using my old Reddit account. My 45F husband, 49M, of 23 years has been having an affair with a 20-years-old girl since 2020. I found out this year when his affair partner gave birth to twin boys in March. Obviously we were going to divorce. We've been hashing things out since, It's been a lengthy process due to some properties in common, and we needed to get an accountant since he used the shared account for his affair. Finally, things seemed to be getting close to the end when both my husband and the woman he cheated with were killed in a car crash. By some miracle, the twin babies were not harmed in the crash. Now they are orphaned and neither set of grandparents can take them in permanently. My husband's parents are both in assisted living. He has no siblings and the only aunt that could take them refuses. She's been child-free her whole life. On the woman's side, I'm not sure the details in full, but her parents are also not able to be involved long-term, and the one sister she has lives overseas. Since we were still married and he had not updated his will, all his assets are set to pass to me and our 2 children. I'm not callous enough to leave those babies with nothing, so I agreed to let whoever is their legal guardian to have the remaining balance in the shared account. About $25,000 in savings. The issue is no one wants to take them in. Now my in-laws are pressuring me to take them in and raise them. The issue is, I don't want to. At all. I wouldn't love them and I don't want to be the evil stepmother. But I know a big part of me will always have a level of resentment towards them. I will probably favor my own children. It's not their fault, but I truly loved my husband and I thought we were happy before I found out about the affair. We have 2 daughters, 14 and 16. Obviously we had disagreements, but never insulted each other before. Then I found out about the affair and he began calling me names and blaming me for his cheating. He became abusive and even tried to kick me off the house, my childhood home that is not shared property for the record. I'm also raising teenagers alone now. I don't have the energy to raise babies anymore. My daughters hate their baby brothers. I tried to get them to spend time with their dad as we were divorcing, but they refused. Since this all was found out because of the babies, there wasn't really a way to sugarcoat the situation. And they are also too old to really get away with it. Most of my friends agree it's not my place to care for those children, but my in-laws, the affair woman's parents and my mother want me to raise them. I know my mom is just having grandkids fever, but it hurts to not have her support. I have to make a decision by next week or the boys will be going into foster care. At the moment they are temporarily placed with their maternal grandparents. I feel horrible, but I am very sure I can't take them in. Small update. Hey everyone, this blew up far more than I thought, and I appreciate the well wishes for my girls, the boys and myself. Also for the amount of lovely people offering to see about giving the twins a good home. I might not be their mother, but it does touch me and makes me glad there's good people out there. After thinking carefully and speaking to my lawyer, reading responses, doing research, etc. I plan to speak to the grandparents tomorrow and refuse to take legal guardianship of the boys. I will let them know of the usernames of people that offered meetings for private adoptions or fostering, but my daughters are my priority. It'll be up to the twins' grandparents to decide if they'll proceed with adoption, keep them, or turn them to the state. I wish I had the mental capacity to be the person to do this, but I have 2 girls that are going through a lot and they need my full attention. I'll also be talking to the lawyers to figure out if the boys have any inheritance claim properly. If they do, I'll separate it and leave it to the lawyers to do what they need to do for them to have access when it's best. If they don't, I'll find a way to ensure they have access to the $25,000 I was going to give them since the beginning. I won't do more, however. My moral compass might be biased, but I don't believe I'm obligated neither morally or legally to do more than what the word of law says. I can't help everyone and I shouldn't have to. I have 2 girls that lost their father, 2 girls that need therapy, 2 girls just about to get to college. They've gone through enough without seeing their mother favor the children of their father's mistress. My stepmother abused my fiance's young brother, causing a family rift that threatens to destroy our wedding and relationships forever. Original post, mention of child Abu *E. It's not too graphic, but it's there. I tried posting this on AITA through a different account a couple days ago, but it didn't work out. Given the trigger warning, I'm not surprised. I have since concluded my wife and I did the right thing, so this will be my last attempt to post this story. I tried to add some info and change the wording a little. All names are fake. My 28M stepmother, 49F, is a wannabe party planner. She has taken it upon herself to plan and host every party and holiday my dad's family has thrown since she married him. I never loved those occasions growing up. She's controlling and gets upset if people complain about anything, but humored her for my dad's sake. According to him, this helps her feel included. I'm getting married to my fiancée Jane, 26F, in July. We got engaged in early 2021, but Jane ended up getting pregnant a couple months after that, and we decided to postpone the wedding to focus on our son for a while. So we've had a long engagement. My stepmother has tried to hijack our wedding plans from day one, complaining, contacting our planner, showing up unannounced to Jane's dress appointments, etc. and we have repeatedly asked her to stop. Dad wants us to humor her, but she's clearly resentful of the fact that she's not hosting the wedding or being labeled mother of the groom in invitations. Besides our baby boy, we also have Luke, 4M, Jane's paternal half-brother. She got custody of him a few months into our relationship, after his parents died. I ended up moving in with them during the pandemic, and have been in Luke's life since he was a baby. He doesn't call me dad, and refers to us as his sister and his OP, but we love him like a son. Stepmother though hates Luke. She accuses Jane of baby-trapping her way into the family. That accusation only got worse after our son was born. My dad gets along with Jane and adores the kids, but stepmother demands him to refuse babysitting Luke, so we don't leave the kids with them often. Instead, Jane's brother and CL usually watch the kids for us, as their children are close to ours in age. We had a thing last Sunday, and my Bill was out of town with his family. Jane's other siblings live in different cities, as well as my mom and sister. My dad agreed to babysit at our place and we left. We came back to find both kids crying, stepmother screaming, and dad weakly trying to calm everyone down. Apparently, Luke had told stepmother that both he and our son were going to be our ring bearers, and she went ballistic. She screamed that she wasn't going to allow that because he wasn't family. She then made me need to include the trigger warning when he started crying. His lip is still split. She'd never gotten to this point before. We immediately banned her from our house and from our wedding. Dad is fuming and has said he's not going without her. He's also convinced half of his side of the family, by severely downplaying what stepmother did, to boycott the wedding as well. This includes my stepbrother, who fully agrees with his mother no matter how many times I try to tell him the truth. Me and Jane are refusing to budge, but many of my cousins who aren't coming anymore are asking us to reconsider. Pretty much all of Jane's family agrees with us, but one of her aunts has suggested that maybe stepmother is acting out because she doesn't feel welcomed by my family. I've honestly had it with my family enabling her behavior. I love my dad, and really want him at my wedding, but I am more than willing to go NC if it means protecting my family. Edit. I think I accidentally deleted the paragraph where I mentioned this, but we did press charges. We took Luke to the pediatrician the next day and gathered every piece of evidence we had. Not only did we have pictures of Luke's face, but by some miraculous strike of luck, we also had nanny cam footage. Some commenters were right to assume that my SM hadn't been invited to our house, but my dad hasn't really gone anywhere without her in years, so we took precautions. We didn't expect her to actually do anything this awful, but we've never trusted her with the kids. The physical attack happened off camera, but there is some footage of her screaming and Luke crying before and after the event. She now has a child abuse charge on her rap sheet. We wouldn't let her get away with this. Edit 2. There is a lot of additional info I want to add. I'll try to respond to at least some of the comments. I did not expect the amount I've gotten so far, but all I'll add for now is that Luke is okay. The visit to the pediatrician happened the day after. He already had a counselor. Jane was pretty traumatized when her dad and stepmom died, and was worried it would rub off on him, and will continue treatment. We've been hugging and pampering him a little more than usual too. He's still upset, but is already doing much better. Update 1. I want to thank everybody who took the time to read and/or comment on my previous post. It's been a tough week, but it's always great to know that people care. I haven't been able to reply to every comment, but I will try to address some in this update. This might get a little long. I'll start off by saying that me and Jane are going NC with my dad and SM. We haven't really spoken to either of them since the incident, and I don't plan on being the one to reach out. Any communication between us is being handled by my younger sister. She's completely on our side, but will remain in low contact for the time being. I've decided to adopt Jane's way of dealing with people she cares about. Forgive what's apologized for, but never forget. Basically, if Dad or SM ever truly understand what they did wrong and sincerely apologize, we're willing to forgive them. Even if begrudgingly so, but we will never ignore, or let them forget, what they did to our family. And for the time being, neither of them will be allowed near Luke, our baby, and any other kids we may have in the future, even if we do forgive them. As for the rest of my family, I read a lot of comments suggesting that I post pictures of Luke's face, as well as the nanny cam footage. I'm not very active on social media, but even if I was, I'm not comfortable exposing my injured preschooler like that, especially given that nothing on the internet ever truly goes away. I also decided not to share the pictures with my family unless truly necessary. I should probably mention that while my family adores my dad, most of them aren't very fond of SM. She had 2 failed marriages prior to meeting my father, the first of which resulted in my stepbrother, and he cheated on his then girlfriend to be with her. My family loved that girlfriend and disliked SM right away. Not only has she been controlling and manipulative since the beginning, she's also tried to force her way into the family matriarch role by any means possible. Taking over planning duties for every family event was her favorite way to do it, because of all the attention and compliments that come with it. The main reason why I hated these parties growing up was because she'd always find a way to make everything about her, including Christmas and mine and my sister's birthdays. The rest of the family felt neutral about it, but they never liked her. With Luke, it was different. Most of my relatives didn't meet him until COVID restrictions got looser, and by then he was 2 years old. He's a bright and genuinely lovable kid, and there weren't really any other small children in the family, so everyone immediately started cooing over him. The way I see it, SM got upset that Jane and Luke were accepted by my family so easily compared to her experience, and that's why she resents them both, but I can't confirm that. She was also mad that, aside from not being the planner, she would have absolutely no involvement in the wedding party. She tried to pressure us into letting her officiate. One of Jane's best friends was offered that role a year ago, making stepbrother my best man. He wasn't interested and I'd already gotten my best friend. Or asking her sister's daughter to be our flower girl. We'd promised Jane's 3-year-old niece, also her sister's daughter is 15 and doesn't know us. She also tried to convince us to let my dad walk Jane down the aisle, since her father's gone, but her eldest brother, the Bill I mentioned in the first post, had already been enlisted. SM was disappointed that my family wasn't as involved in the wedding as Jane's, and kept making comments about how that would never happen if we put her in charge. All of that being said, there's nothing that can excuse being that awful to a child, especially if it really is the petty jealousy that I suspect. Because I haven't spoken with my father, my sister has been keeping me updated on what he's been up to. As I found out through her, the story my dad and SM told the rest of the family completely erases Luke's injury and the abuse charges. It insinuates that me and Jane banned them because we got annoyed with SM and decided to take it out on my dad as well. Because most people already disliked SM, explaining what actually happened that night wasn't hard, and most of the relatives that I actually wanted at the wedding have apologized and are berating my dad as well. The people that didn't believe us, as well as those saying we overreacted, have been told they are not welcome in our home anymore. Those are mostly people from my dad's generation, so I can't say I'm surprised. But the realization that they are so biased they're willing to protect a woman they hate, after she hurt a child, just to make my dad happy has reassured me that I don't need any of them in my life. Stepbrother is still in denial. He refuses to believe his mother could hurt a child, even with all the evidence we have. I have to admit I understand. I love my mom too, but that doesn't mean I'd excuse his obliviousness. So he's banned too. It sucks, because we were close growing up, but I don't regret it. Besides, Jane has 3 other siblings besides Luke, the older Bill, a twin brother and a younger sister, and I'm closer to them than I ever was to him. Speaking of Jane's family, they're all furious over what happened, and have been extremely supportive of us. Jane's maternal family basically adopted Luke after she got custody of him, and have called frequently to make sure he's okay. We did manage to save some money with everybody we uninvited, and have decided to use it to help Jane's cousin. She lives in a different country, and was previously unable to come to the wedding, so we're paying for her plane ticket. Luke has gotten much better, and is almost completely back to being the sunny child he's always been. The split lip was shallow. It's healing slowly, but didn't require any stitches. We sat him down a few days ago, and explained that my dad and stepmonster wouldn't be around anymore. He really liked my dad, but understands that he and SM are attached at the hip. He's clearly scared of her, but we're doing our best to make him feel safe. Me and Jane have reassured him that he is family, we love him, and no one will ever change that. I'm not too worried about Dad or SM trying to show up at the wedding, but we've alerted the venue and given them pictures just in case they try anything. Better safe than sorry. Some people brought attention to the fact that SM is a hypocrite for saying Luke isn't family. I agree, for obvious reasons. Her main excuse for pretty much everything she does is that she doesn't feel like my family welcomes her. Dad has been guilting me to take part in everything she plans by reminding us of that for as long as I can remember. The way he continues to make excuses for her without realizing this is basically a case of the pot calling the kettle black, except Luke actually is family, is what has made me accept that, while I will always love my dad, it's not healthy or safe for me and my family to be around him anymore. It hurts to know my son won't have his only remaining bio-grandfather in his life, but he has 2 amazing step-grandpas to make up for it. For now, I'm sad, but satisfied with how things have turned out. I don't like to complain about my life. It's a mess, but a beautiful one. I love my fiancé, I love my kids, and I'm lucky enough to love my job. We're happy. I'm not letting anyone ruin that. To whoever was annoyed at my censorship. When posting on AITA didn't work out, Jane suggested I make the writing less explicit. I'm not used to Reddit yet, so I might have overdone it a little bit. I hope this is my last update on this story, but I'll keep you posted. Again, thank you for all your love and support. Best wishes to all of you. Relevant comments from OOP. The only reason why I know that this is the first time she's hit him is because this was the first and last time she was with the kids unsupervised. Me and Jane were around every previous time she saw Luke. She didn't want my dad to babysit him, and we'd only asked him to on a few occasions before. My sister was still living with them at the time, and has assured me that Luke was never out of her sight. I know and trust my sister enough to believe her. First time or not, I will not give her a second chance. She'll never hurt either of my kids again. OOP when told to secure passwords with all vendors. We've actually had passwords with the vendors since day one. Some of the earlier ones we met actually recommended us to do it. SM did contact our planner a while back saying she had our approval to talk to our vendors. She didn't let her, and we got a bit more strict with passwords after that. Commenter, so is SM serving any jail time? If she attacked a child then and you guys pressed charges, I would imagine she would have to be processed and eventually serve some time for her crime. OOP, we hope so. We're setting up a date for the arraignment. Commenter, start a file for SM. Keep any and all texts, voicemails and attempts of her communicating. Do the same with anyone who has taken her side because she could escalate, and you may need that info. Those people are flying monkeys and she's sent them to not only plead her case, but report back to her the things you may have told them so she can continue to play her victim card. You were great to have the nanny cam, but should also make sure to notify his daycare or school that she is not to be given info or access to him. Get cameras that have audio just in case she shows up at your house, and password protect all of your wedding vendors and let them know not to give her any info and to notify you if she tries. Your dad may be harmless, but she's not. OOP. That second advice is something we've been pretty occupied with, actually. This past week has been mostly about the kids and collecting evidence, but I'll definitely check out the JN Mill sub. Commenter, did you say that if your father and stepmonster apologize that you will allow them at your wedding? I wasn't quite sure what you were saying. OOP, absolutely not. My father and SM are not welcome at the wedding, no matter the circumstances. They could offer me an island and I'd still refuse to let them come back into our lives right now. I only plan to forgive anything far off in the future, and only if they apologize sincerely. Even then, they will have no access to the kids for years after that. Knowing SM, I highly doubt she'll ever feel sorry for what she did, so we're not counting on it anyway. Update 2. I'll start off by, probably, disappointing a lot of people. We're coming to terms with the fact that it's unlikely SM will get anything more than a slap on the wrist. Me and Jane are discussing our next move with our lawyer, but we're still not sure how we're going to move forward. It's too early to tell anyway, so we're trying not to get ahead of ourselves any more than we already have. However, I'm relieved to announce that we're getting started on the process for a restraining order against SM. We're using the same evidence we gathered the week following the incident, including the nanny cam footage and pictures of Luke, and we'll focus on that for the time being. I still haven't spoken to my father. My sister is still in LC, but is seriously considering cutting ties with him. Because my sister is the only one on my side that still talks to him, my father keeps trying to ask her about me, and whether I've calmed down, yet. According to her, he's annoyed that half of his family refuses to talk to him, but still doesn't seem to accept why. I told my sister that she doesn't need to keep playing messenger pigeon between me and our father. I never asked her to do it, and it's clearly taking a toll on her. But she insists she'll stop when it feels right. By the way, there's absolutely no doubt whether SM attacked Luke. Not only did Luke say at the moment we got home, but that was also confirmed by my father in a failed attempt to defend her behavior. He never tried to hide it from us. That, and the fact that he gave Luke an ice bag, is literally the only positive thing I can say about his actions. And SM was too busy screaming about how much of a whining brat Luke was being to deny it. To those who guessed SM is younger than my dad, you get an invisible cookie. She's also 5 years younger than his previous girlfriend. They got together when I was around 15. Also, my stepbrother is only a month older than me. She turns 50 later this year, had him at 21, married his father a year later. Both our kids are doing mostly okay. Luke's back to running around the house in his Superman costume whenever he doesn't have anything better to do. He did have a few nightmares this past week, and is asked to sleep on our bed twice. We don't mention my father around him, and he's still seeing his counselor. Our 14-month-old son has learned 2 new words, hi and bye, and Luke is trying to teach him to say his name. Jane's sister, who moved away for college, is coming over for a couple days to celebrate her 21st birthday later this month. Luke's excited to see her, and Jane's excited to get drunk with her. Can't say I blame her. We're hoping her presence will cheer us all up. I'm not doing so good, and neither is Jane. She's usually the kind of person who tries to keep her negative emotions to herself, but she cried herself to sleep almost every night the week it happened. It breaks my heart to see her like that, and I can't help but feel like this is my fault. There's a part of me trying to tell myself I had no way of knowing SM would do anything like that, but that doesn't really change anything. I allowed my father near my kids unsupervised, even though I knew she'd probably tag along. This is the guiltiest I've ever felt, and I don't think I'll ever forgive myself. Jane has been improving lately, and is trying to convince me to see a therapist. I've never really done that before, apart from a psychiatrist when I was younger, but now feels like a good time to give it a try. I was surprised by a few messages this week from people telling me to forgive my father and SM, as well as re-invite them to the wedding. That's not happening. In fact, I'm not willing to ever forgive SM. My dad has now degraded to a huge maybe, but I will never understand or forget what she did. Also, though the wedding is the last thing on our minds right now, we're not postponing it. We considered rescheduling, but the date we'd settled on is pretty much the only one that works for our guests. We have passwords with all our vendors, and gave them all clear instructions not to talk to anyone but us. Jane's family is bigger and closer to each other, which is why they're more involved in the wedding than mine, but I do have family participating. My sister is one of the bridesmaids, 2 of my cousins are groomsmen, and my mom is walking down the aisle with the wedding party. Going through all of this with Jane has made me understand even more just how much I love this woman. I couldn't ask for a better partner to start a family with, and I have no idea what I'd do without her. This didn't tear us apart, and I couldn't be more thankful. I probably won't make any more updates until after the wedding, unless something big happens. In the meantime, as always, best wishes to all of you. Update 3. I didn't plan on updating again before the wedding, but something pretty huge happened. The good news is we got the RO. The bad news is me and Jane had to see both SM and my father at the court hearing. This was our first time seeing them since we kicked them out of our house over a month ago, and neither of us were looking forward to it. We left the kids with Jane's brother and Sil, so at least Luke didn't have to see them. The hearing itself went a lot quicker than I expected. I'll give credit where it's due. My father was, at the very least, smart enough to understand there was no way they were winning this. There was a lot of evidence against them. Not only did we have the nanny cam footage and Luke's pictures and medical record, but my sister had also gathered every text and email SM had sent her and the family about what happened. And SM hates speaking on the phone, so there were a lot of those. They didn't even bother to get an attorney for the hearing. The judge granted us a protection order against SM. She's not allowed within 500 feet of us or our property anymore. We're changing all our locks this week, and I'm thinking about changing my phone number as well. I have to admit, the moment we left the courthouse was the safest I'd felt since this whole ordeal started. Jane was close to tearing up with joy when we got to the car. We picked up the kids and went to McDonald's with Bill and his family to celebrate. Hours later, my father called me. The order doesn't extend to him, so he can still do that. Jane and the kids were in bed, so I answered. I didn't expect him to change his mind and apologize all of a sudden, but decided to give him one last chance. He tried to start some awkward small talk, but I told him to get to the point. He asked me if the order was truly necessary. I stated, very clearly, that SM was never coming near Jane or my children again, and that I was glad I had an RO to formalize that. Every excuse he had for SM was pretty easy to shut down, but she only hit him once. Yep, and that's enough for me. The kids need their grandma. She's not their grandma, Mom is. She's my wife. You need to respect her. She attacked Luke, she disrespected my family in my own house. I don't owe her anything, least of all my respect. He then went on a rant about family, how much of a godsend SM was and everything she'd done for me and my sister since she came into our lives. I replied by listing every time I could remember about her lying, overstepping a boundary or acting unhinged around me, my family or my sister. I brought up both my adult life and my youth. Examples included her attempts to hijack most of our milestones, recently, our wedding plans, our son's birth, Jane's baby shower and my sister's college graduation. Her obsession with the idea of a perfect family, and her disgusting attitude towards Luke. I also made sure to mention her habits of going through mine and my sister's stuff when we were younger. It's trivial, compared to everything else, but this behavior went on until my sister moved out of their house, only 3 months ago. We're pretty sure she found out about Jane's wedding dress appointments by reading my sister's planner while she wasn't home, for instance. Some of the memories I mentioned are long and hard to explain, but they did cement the fact that SM means nothing to me. He tried to go with the whole, she doesn't feel included excuse again, but I shut him up. I said he'd had the opportunity to protect his grandchildren, but had chosen his monster of a wife instead, and that's enough for me to want nothing to do with him. I hung up without saying goodbye. My sister told me he called her afterwards, and she told him she was going NC with him as well. I think we're both starting to accept our father won't change. It sucks, but he's made his priorities clear, and his children and grandkids aren't among them. For now, that's it. Now that they're fresh in my mind, I'm thinking about sharing some of the stories I reminded my father of, but that's gonna take a while. Until then, as always, best wishes to all of you. Relevant comments. Commenter, but she only hit him once would have ended the phone call for me. OOP, I almost hung up on him when he said that. The only reason I didn't was because I knew I wasn't gonna talk to him again anytime soon, and I still had a lot to say. Commenter. I am curious how your stepbrother is handling all of this. Like, the RO is something you can't just push away. A judge stated that what his mother did was so terrible she needed to stay away from those children. It just feels like something you can't stick your head in the sand and claim that you could never believe that your mother could hurt someone like that. OOP, I haven't spoken to him since days before the RO, and he hasn't tried to contact me or my sister. He was still in denial last time we talked, but seemed a bit doubtful. TBH, I think he's the only one who isn't a complete lost cause and still has a slight chance of coming around. He's still banned, but I might be willing to talk to him about this whole thing. Commenter. Holy hell. If you are comfortable sharing, I know many of us would want to hear those hijacking stories. Hope the kids don't have too terribly long an impact on their life from this, especially the preschooler. OOP. Luke hasn't mentioned her in a while. I don't doubt he was affected by this, but I think he understands everything is okay now. Our baby is barely a year old. And if it's up to me, he won't even know she exists until he's grown. I'll definitely share some of the stories as soon as I can bring myself to write them down. Commenter. It's crazy how the court gave your dad a chance not to give him the protection order and you gave him a chance to explain on the phone and he still managed to screw up. You guys gave so many chances and your dad fails to see that SM is a bad person. Your dad doesn't seem like he's going to change, and until he does, somehow stop giving him more chances. OP, that was his last chance, and he blew it. If he ever comes around, and that's a big if, it'll still take me a long time to allow him back into our lives. Update 4. After being engaged for over 2 years, me and Jane finally got married last Saturday. We're still getting used to calling each other husband and wife, but we'll get there. Hopefully. The wedding was awesome. The kids had fun, our extended families finally met, and we danced so much I could barely stand the next day. Luke took his ring-bearer duties seriously, and held my son's hand as they walked down the aisle. Besides my aunt getting shit-faced and being let out on a wheelchair, which I already thought would happen anyway, everything went according to plan. It's been 4 months since we got the RO against SM. Things have been mostly quiet, and I wouldn't have it any other way. Except completely quiet, but we can't always get what we want. I never really worried about SM showing up at the wedding, especially after the RO. It's literally illegal for her to come close to us, and we made it very clear that if she tried, we'd call the cops right away. My friends still warned me to take safety measures, most of which I did. SM didn't show up, of course, but I'm a strong believer that any money spent on security is well spent, so no regrets on that end. My stepbrother and I wished each other happy birthdays, and he also texted Jane on hers back in June. That's the only contact we've had during these months. He knows that the door is still open if he wants to apologize. My dad has given up on trying to reach me. We haven't spoken since April. He's still trying to talk to my sister, for some reason, but she's ignoring him. A few days after she went NC with him, they had a huge fight over the phone about SM's treatment of us over the years. Insults were thrown, sore subjects were brought up, and, most importantly, my father took SM's side on almost everything. My sister called me crying afterwards. I wanted to call him and yell at him, but she told me not to. She's doing okay now. She hasn't blocked him, but doesn't take his calls or answer his texts. She's only gotten 3, a weak apology, one on my birthday back in May, and a long rant after neither of us wished him a happy Father's Day. After all, despite our differences, he's still our father. He's not wrong. I love my father, and I always will, but I can't be around him anymore. While I've closed that door, I'm not locking it just yet. He knows what he needs to do if he wants his family back. I don't think he'll do it, but if there's the slightest chance he might, I'll consider opening the door an inch or two. This is my wife's suggestion. I'm a lot less optimistic than she is, but maybe it's important to hold on to that hope. She hasn't forgiven him though. Or SM, Jane has always been very protective of Luke, so it was no surprise that this disaster shook her. A part of me was scared she'd blame me, but she called me a dumbass when I told her that. I've been in therapy for a few months and it's helped a lot more than I thought it would. I've realized SM's behavior around me growing up was a lot worse than I always thought, and it's great to finally be able to get my feelings off my chest. Right now, I'm more than happy. I just married the most amazing woman ever, and I have the family I always dreamed of. None of us are perfect, but I never thought life would be this great to me. I'll stick around. Reddit is a lot more than I expected, but I can sleep peacefully now, so it's safe to say this will be my last update on this. Thank you all for the kindness and advice you gave me these months. I could have never expected the support I got from you guys, and I can't begin to describe how helpful it was. Seriously, thank you all. Edit 3 days later. Okay, I updated too soon. I didn't want to write another post, so I'll just add this here. My stepbrother called me earlier today. Apparently, he and SM had a fight and he wants to meet up. I agreed as long as it was just the two of us. We're meeting up for coffee on Wednesday. I have no idea what to expect, but even if he does apologize, I need to know he understands how and why he let us down. New update. Hey guys. I've been away from Reddit for a few months, due to some stuff at work. But a lot of people have been messaging me about my stepbrother, so I want to give you a small update. I've been busy and tired these days, so I might gloss over some details. Feel free to ask me anything. I first met my stepbrother for coffee back in August. He'd had a fight with SM and the RO was brought up. She'd lied to him about some details, accusing Luke of picking on my baby, badmouthing Jane and more, but this time, he managed to force her to tell him the truth. My stepbrother started to reevaluate his relationship with his mother. After talking to his therapist and his friends about it, as well as the way she'd raised him, he finally accepted I wasn't exaggerating about what she did to Luke. He wanted to talk to me back in June, but didn't want to distract me and Jane from the wedding. Me and my stepbrother spent the last 4 months working on rebuilding our relationship. We've been meeting for coffee or lunch and discussing his mother and what she did to our lives and my kids. Jane started joining us in October, and the kids saw him again for the first time 2 weeks ago. Things were awkward between us for a while, but we're good now. He's also making amends with my sister. In early November, he completely cut contact with SM. Jane and the kids are doing amazing. Luke turned 5 in September, and our baby will be 2, holy crap, in early February. We're spending the holidays with Jane's family in Brazil, while my stepbrother stays with his girlfriend. Things are great, that's all. I'm signing off for now. I'll let you know if anything happens. Happy holidays everyone. Best wishes to all of you.